Hi there, this is Renee Rubakava with AutoNet, and today I want to talk a little bit about working with feature collections in ArcGIS API 4 for JavaScript. Now, there's a really great sample in the SDK docs that talks about working with graphics in your feature layer, which is basically how you would do feature collections in ArcGIS API 4. You don't actually create the feature layer with the feature collection. What you do is actually a little bit more flexible, where you just provide an array of graphics as the source for your feature layer, and you're all set and ready to go. You do need to give it a couple other things. You need to tell it what the fields are going to be, what the object ID field is, the geometry type, and the spatial reference. But after you set all this up, you only need to work directly with the source property of the feature layer, which is a collection of type graphics on the feature layer, which means that anything that you pass into it that looks like a graphic will get autocast to a graphic. So this sample is really good. I, however, want to talk a little bit about more how you may want to update the graphics that are part of the feature layer. So to do that, I went ahead and I found some GPS data in ArcGIS Online, and I'm just going to go ahead and pull that data in using the query task. And when I do the query task for a feature service like this, it's going to go ahead and give me the fields. So I already got the fields, so I'm going to go ahead and use those. Then I'm going to iterate over my features and turn them. Technically, the features are already graphic objects, but the geometry is just a JSON geometry. But I need to go ahead and cast that to a point so that the feature layer knows that they're points. It could be a line, it could be a polygon. I mean, it's just not going to know unless we do this. And then for the GPS data, I don't want to display all the data at once. I want to display it as it was collected. So I'm going to go ahead and sort by the date field in this GPS data here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the first feature out of my features array and create my feature layer like I was showing you earlier. And I'll just pass in the first feature as the source for this feature layer. So I create my map view, and I'm going to go and zoom to that location. And once everything's set and ready to go, I have a little set interval function here, which I'm going to go ahead and iterate again over my features array. I will remove all the graphics from the source of the current feature layer, and then I'm going to go and add the new feature back into it. And I'll update the index, and if it goes to 0, or if it matches the length of the array, I'm going to go ahead and go back to 0, start all over again, and do this every 100 milliseconds. So we can see what that looks like here. So I've got my feature collection data being displayed here, and it looks like a little planned invasion of Canada out of Alaska here. And we can see that all these points are set. Let me go and refresh it real quick, just so you can see how it starts off. So again, just zoom to the location and start displaying my data. And if I click the pop-up here, so I'm at object ID 1421 here, and over here I'm object ID 1479. So you can see it's actually updating the entire graphic itself. Now, maybe I don't want to update all the data. I only want to update the geometry, and I want to keep reusing all the attributes. So the feature layers.source property is actually a collection. And like I talked about earlier, it's a collection of type graphic. So we get a couple of neat methods on a collection. As you can see, we already have the add method. Actually, let me go to methods here. We have the add method. We use remove all to remove everything. And there's even so we use the add method, we use remove all, and there's even a get item at. So that's what we're going to try out. So let's go ahead, come back to our code here. Let's get the graphic is going to be equal to the layer.source.get item at, and there's only one graphic in this feature layer, so we're going to get item at 0. Okay, so now we've got our cloned graphic, and what we want to do is we want to actually just update the geometry for that graphic. All right, so graphic.geometry is equal to the geometry from our features array that I pulled out for the feature. And instead of adding the actual feature and letting it autocast, I'll just add in my clone graphic now. So what this should do, if we go and refresh this, is that we see the same thing as normal. However, if I click on my point here, I'm at object ID 1415, and click on one up here, it's the same object ID. So all I've done is update the geometry, but not the attributes for the graphics in the feature layer source. So this could come in handy if you want to update the symbology, if you just want to update maybe parts of the attribute but not the geometry. anything like that. Remember, you want to go ahead and clone that graphic and get a new graphic from that, make those updates, and remove the old graphic and add the new one in. So that's how you work with the feature layer source to update the features in your feature layer. And I hope that's helpful. Thank you.